Chapter 651. Samsara's teamwork. Troubling Rain had disappeared. The first one to WannaCry was the cameraman. The cameraman had the ability to focus on a single character, but from a bird's eye view, while the other 4 Team Blue Rain players could easily be seen amidst the grass blowing in the wind, only Huang Shaoxin's Troubling Rain was nowhere to be found. When did he stray off from the rest of the team? No one had noticed it. Fortunately, this sort of problem could easily be solved. The cameraman immediately switched to Troubling Rain's first-person point of view. His location and movements could be discerned from his surroundings. The camera zoomed out, and then Troubling Rain disappeared once again. The commentator followed up with the prompt. He could only brace himself and say, "Everyone, look. Huang Shaoxin's Troubling Rain is currently moving around, hidden in the grass. It isn't easy to see him. Instead, pay attention to the tracks left behind in the grass." The commentator was just spouting nonsense. When the cameraman zoomed out, it was impossible to see where Troubling Rain was actually located. That was the only thing he could say. Tracks left behind? The spectators looked at the screen to search for them. Those who couldn't see it would say, "Oh, I see it. Over there, over there." If not, wouldn't it seem like they weren't good enough to notice? Experienced players like Yishu and Wei Chen were actually able to grasp Troubling Rain's movements from the minute traces left behind in the grass. However, these traces immediately disappeared from the screen because the cameraman was randomly moving it around. The two of them realized that the cameraman had no idea what he was doing and was just pretending that he did. The cameraman obviously couldn't keep on pretending he couldn't find these tracks, so he began shifting to other points of views, from an overall perspective to different individual perspectives. It gave off the feeling that a decisive battle was approaching. Finally, one side made the first offensive move. "Great Gunner, I'm behind you." A bunch of words suddenly appeared in all chat. The person speaking was Troubling Rain. In Glory's 8 season finals, the first attack had been Huang Shaoxin's trash talk. For people who loathed superfluous words, it was quite a disappointing opening. The cameraman immediately switched to Huang Shaoxin's target, Zhou Zekai's Great Gunner, Cloud Piercer. Cloud Piercer didn't have any intentions on turning around. He simply flung a grenade behind him. Whether Huang Shaoxin was telling the truth or not, Zhou Zekai probably decided it would be best to defend himself just in case. The explosion from his grenade was the first sound of the entire match. "Uh-oh, I've been hit." Another string of words popped up in all chat. F***CK, just fight already. Why do you have to talk so much? The players hadn't even reacted yet, but the commentator was already starting to become impatient. Of course, the commentator could only say this in his head. Out loud, his only choice was to say, "Team Blue Rain's Huang Shaoxin has already begun verbally harassing his opponents, but is it effective against Samsara? We'll have to wait and see." This commentator clearly wasn't a fan of Huang Shaoxin. He had to restrain himself from spewing out his true feelings and expressed a more neutral stance. "Look at my sword." 4 words popped up on the screen. Samsara's players remained unmoved. Suddenly, a sword light flew out from a patch of grass. Troubling Rain had begun attacking. However, his target wasn't Cloud Piercer, but Fang Minggua's cleric, Laughing Song. But if this sort of ambush was enough to cause trouble for them, Samsara should not have chosen this map for the finals to begin with. Samsara's players had clearly been prepared for this kind of ambush. The instant the grass broke apart, Fang Minggua's Laughing Song moved. He quickly cast a sacred fire at his feet and leapt to the side. He put his cross in front of him and holy white light shot out like a flashlight. The green grass was lit up by the white light and a figure could be seen hiding inside. After that sword light missed, the figure hadn't rushed forward, but retreated instead. Samsara's practiced players immediately focused their attacks towards that location to clear away the field. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer leapt high into the sky and opened fire at the figure amidst the grass. Zhang Batao's Spellblade, Empty Waves, also rushed forward. Fiery flames surrounded his strangely shaped dagger as he slashed downwards. A wave of fire immediately swept the area. The surrounding grass was burned away, but there was no sign of Troubling Rain. The assassin Wu Qi and the grappler Liu Boyuan needed to be within melee range to attack and didn't have any mid or long-ranged moves. The two characters rushed out, executing a pincer attack. At this moment, Laughing Song's white light faded away and Troubling Rain's figure could no longer be seen, but Cloud Piercer was able to infer Troubling Rain's location from the white light and chased after him. With these attacks pointing towards their target, Wu Qi and Lu Boyuan coordinated with Zhang Batao's fire wave and instantly trapped Troubling Rain. The audience cheered loudly. Their teamwork had to be brilliant in order to catch that sly Huang Shaoshan. Even though Samsara was known as a one-man team, this was only because of Zhou Zekai's outstanding performance. When other teams called Samsara a one-man team, they were simply envious of them having such an incredible ace player. Every top team had fresh flowers and green leaves supporting one another. It was just that the flower known as Zhou Zekai stood out compared to the other players. Zhou Zekai often decided the match on his own, but it didn't mean that Samsara didn't have any tactics or teamwork. At this very moment, they displayed their exceptional teamwork on stage. Troubling Rain has been caught. Things are not looking good for him right now. His teammates still need a bit of time before they will be able to reach him. Huang Shaoshan's movements are a bit off from his team's. This was a bit of a rash move on his part. Let's how he manages to deal with this situation. The commentator rejoiced at Huang Shaoshan's misfortune as he continued to commentate. Wow, you actually managed to catch me. Huang Shaoshan actually took the time to type a few words. For people who like to talk a lot, it was quite admirable of him. Lu Boyuan's grappler had extended his hands towards Troubling Rain. Grapplers relied on throws. Their damage wasn't amazing, but throws couldn't be blocked. Along with their displacement and knockdown effects, throws were extremely useful crowd control skills in team fights, especially for an offense-oriented team. Huang Shaoshan didn't only talk. Troubling Rain quickly leapt away from the two hands. At the same time, he put his sword up and activated guard to block the heart-piercing stab from Wu Qi's assassin. Using the momentum from the opponent's stab, Troubling Rain slid backwards, but Wu Qi's assassin followed closely after him. His dagger never left Troubling Rain's blade as he hastily kept up. How could a god like Huang Shaoshan not be experienced? He immediately realized what Wu Qi was planning to do and rolled to the side. The dagger in the hands of Wu Qi's assassin shot forward like a bullet, but if one looked closely, the dagger hadn't left his hands. Only a part of the dagger had shot out. The dagger was still in his character's hands and slashed along an arc along with the other part. Assassin skill, mother and child stab. Wu Qi's execution wasn't slow. Unfortunately, Huang Shaoshan had predicted it and had dodged. This sudden and insidious move failed to injure him. Troubling Rain didn't complete the roll as he flew up. He used a headwind strike and swept the area in front of him with a storm of wind. Not only was Wu Qi's assassin unable to dodge it in time, it also stopped Lu Boyuan's grappler from approaching. After using headwind strike, Troubling Rain landed on the ground. The instant headwind strike ended, Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer slid past Wu Qi and Lu Boyuan. While Huang Shaoshan had been defending against them, Zhou Zekai had found the perfect opportunity to attack him. It looked as if Zhou Zekai's slide kick would hit Troubling Rain, but the instant before it hit, Huang Shaoshan was able to complete a falling light blade to meet the attack. Troubling Rain's blade hit Cloud Piercer and Cloud Piercer's slide kick hit Troubling Rain. It was a clash between two skills of equal levels. Troubling Rain was kicked away, but it was exactly what he wanted. The instant he landed, he swung his sword. Instead of attacking, he used a triple slash to run away. As his sword slashed, the grass around him was sliced apart before he disappeared from view again. Because Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer had been hit by the falling light blade, he was briefly stunned. This brief stun was enough to stop him from following up, allowing Troubling Rain an opportunity to escape. Huang Shaoshan was a master at seizing opportunities, after all. The first confrontation between the two sides had concluded. All sorts of minute movements had happened in that short instant. It felt like even a small breath of air could have changed the outcome. The spectators didn't dare to breathe, and no matter how fast the commentator could speak, there was no way he could keep up with such a fast pace. Everyone was still reflecting on the fight, when a string of words appeared in all chat. Ha ha ha, you can't catch me. You can't catch me. Just wait. You'll see me soon again. How childish. Numerous people were thinking that it spoiled the beautiful scene. It had been such a high-level confrontation, but this guy just had to end it with some trash talk. What an eyesore. Chapter 652. Team Blue Rain's Tactics. Even though Huang Xiaoshan's childish trash talk spoiled the beautiful scene, the brilliant escape he had made couldn't be erased from their memories. The audience had been hoping for a slow-motion playback so they could revisit that brilliant escape once more. Instead, the camera zoomed out to let the audience see that the other 4 members of Team Blue Rain had quietly circled around behind Team Samsara while Huang Xiaoshan's troubling rain had been distracting them. Many fans of Samsara cried out in alarm, dying to go up and warn the players. Unfortunately, this was something they couldn't do no matter how hard they tried, even for the audience members present at the match. No matter how loud they shouted, they wouldn't be able to penetrate the soundproof booths surrounding the players. The players were completely focused on the surroundings of grass blowing in the wind. However, even though Samsara was about to be ambushed by Team Blue Rain, it seemed as if they still had plans for Troubling Rain as they advanced in the direction that Troubling Rain had escaped towards. Close. The 4 players from Team Blue Rain had already drawn near. The hearts of the home team's fans leapt into their throats. The away team's fans were also sweating nervously. Attack! The other 4 members of Team Blue Rain had finally reached a satisfactory position. Their characters were hiding among the grass, getting ready to attack using all sorts of offensive skills. Different skills required different activations. The players also had different hand speeds, so every skill required a different amount of preparation time. However, Team Blue Rain released their offensive skills at the same time. Crimson Storm. Among the attacks, the one with the greatest surge of momentum came from Yufeng's Brilliant Edge. He went straight for one of the level 70 Berserker skills as his opening move. Rushing Thunder Sword, the silver weapon of Glory's number 1 Berserker, possessed a passive ability that imbued his attacks with the light element. In the midst of Crimson Storm's pervading valor, a blue and white light traveled up and down the blade, causing its power to appear very great. As the sword sliced downwards, the sky and earth was covered in a vast expanse of green that swallowed everything up. Swaksar's silver weapon, Curse of Destruction, had long since filled the air with black gas. At this moment, the black gas converged overhead towards a single point. When Brilliant Edge attacked with his Crimson Storm, a black, whirling door that seemed to connect to another dimension solidified. The whirling door revolved gently. The black gas that permeated the air, mixed with wisps of blood, and converged into threatening tentacles that grabbed at different targets. Warlock skill, Death's Door. Compared to the damage it dealt, its crowd control effect was more valued in team battles. After the skill was released, the tentacles from the door would automatically pursue and attack targets within the range of 18 units. Once it grabbed a target, it would quickly drag them into the door and deal a high amount of damage. Just from these 2 high-leveled moves alone, their momentum was already astonishing enough, but there was still a third player who's still airborne. The moment this character dashed rapidly from the grass, he formed a sphere with his 2 hands on the right side of his bottom. Boundless energy seemed to be condensing between his palms. Every audience present, including the commentator and even experienced pro players like Yi Shu or Wei Chen, found out to their surprise that the character who had dashed out from the grass was Receding Tides. Receding Tides was a Chi Master character played by Song Xiao from Team Blue Rain. He was the 6th person in the list of names who would appear on stage from Team Blue Rain before the match. The list could not be falsified, so the only possibility was that he had been switched in sometime during the match. It was a great mistake by the cameraman to not notice anything this entire time. In this case, no one would have been able to notice it in front of the television without a special angle of the scene. Team Blue Rain's Song Xiao unexpectedly makes a move. When was he switched in? We didn't notice it at all. The commentator voiced out everyone's thoughts. At the same time, Receding Tides launched his attack. He pushed out both his hands in midair where a blast of strong energy shot down from the sky. Chi Master Skill, Sky-Piercing Strike. Although the skill was named as Sky-Piercing Strike, it wasn't actually necessary to release it towards the sky. Whether it was towards the flat ground or at various other angles or positions, as long as you could successfully complete the required actions, then the move could be used. Crimson Storm, Death's Door, Sky-Piercing Strike. All the opening moves launched by Team Blue Rain were all high-leveled moves that covered a wide area. Evidently, they planned on inflicting serious damage to Samsara in one blow. No one would have thought that Team Blue Rain would take the initiative in their away game. Huang Xiaoshan's harassment drew Samsara's attention, while the other members of the team took this chance to close in and unleash powerful attacks. In contrast, it was Team Blue Rain who took advantage of grass blowing in the wind's feature and gave Team Samsara a wave of surprises. Accompanying those waves of attacks were fans of Team Blue Rain cheering, while the fans of Samsara clenched their fists with handfuls of sweat. How would the home team defuse these offensive attacks? They didn't defuse them. By the time Team Samsara's players noticed what happened, the attacks made by the three Team Blue Rain players rained down on them, covering the entire area. Because of the existence of Death's Door, a skill that had prominent crowd control, the players of Team Samsara wanted to avoid being grabbed by the tentacles from Death's Door while trying to fleeing from its range, so it was inevitable that they would receive damage from the other two attacks. After being restricted by the two attacks, dodging the tentacles from Death's Door became an issue once again. Under such coordination, dodging was most definitely not the best method. Even though the damage from Crimson Storm and Sky-Piercing Strike was fearful, at this moment, the core of the opponent's waves of attacks was definitely the Warlock's Death's Door. It was Death's Door that caused Samsara's players to feel trapped with no way out. The key was to break through the control of Death's Door. Samsara's Cloud Piercer rolled and escaped from the tentacles coming out of Death's Door. His two hands glowed as he activated Sharpshooter's rapid firing. The bullets spat out from his guns at a high speed and flew directly towards Swaksar. Team Blue Rain's attacks had already cleared all of the grass neatly from this place. At this moment, they could no longer use the grass to hide themselves. As for Joe Zakai, he was letting Cloud Piercer receive damage from the attacks in order to interrupt Swaksar's spell. With Death's Door's crowd control and high damage output, it was definitely not something the user could just cast and then do something else. It required the player to continue controlling it. If they received an attack at that moment, then Death's Door would be interrupted very easily. Joe Zakai made a decisive action, but Team Blue Rain seemed to have anticipated this would happen. Soul Speaker, Shu Jingshi's paladin, had appeared at this moment and encased himself in a golden light cover. He cast a holy shield, which could resist any damage. He stood right in front of Swaksar. When the bullets flew towards the golden light cover, they were swallowed up without even a trace remaining. Shu Jingshi's Soul Speaker didn't receive any kind of damage, the holy shield's light only dimmed a little after receiving such attacks. Immediately after Cloud Piercer had shot his bullets, the wave formation from Zhang Batao's spellblade passed. Holy Shield's light cover flickered for a bit, but Soul Speaker was still unharmed. And after that, the other two offensive-type players of Samsara weren't able to exert any of their power. The other two characters were respectively, an assassin and a grappler. Neither of them had any long-ranged attacks. By the time they rushed over to attack, they would already have escaped beyond Death's Door's boundaries. What would be the point of interrupting? Team Blue Rain's tactical arrangement had thoroughly thought over all factors of Samsara's classes. A combination of mid-ranged attacks had directly disarmed the two Team Samsara players. Their decision to interrupt Swaksar's spell at this time was relatively prompt, but had they considered all of the possibilities to cover? Did they consider if they could break through the opponent's cover with their own attacking methods in the required time? Doubt had already risen within numerous people, but they didn't have time to discuss because the match continued to progress and many events would happen in a blink of an eye. Just when everyone doubted them and started to think about how Samsara's style of having Joe Zakai shoulder everything alone couldn't deal with Team Blue Rain's exquisite teamwork, Joe Zakai's Cloud Piercer continued to attack. Under rapid firing, Cloud Piercer swung out a Gatling gun. The cartridge cases of the bullets that flew out from the gun's muzzle flew out crazily and scattered around his feet. The bullets from the rapid firing shot out in a straight line like a laser beam as it pierced through the light cover on Soul Speaker. The light cover continued to swallow up the bullets as it flickered, but it still showed no sign of being shattered. However, these attacks caused Shu Jingshi to feel a little nervous. He had already noticed Zhang Batao's empty waves using wave formation attacks one after another. It was only when he had to dodge the tentacles from Death's Doors that his attacks would be displaced. The wave formation scraped past Holy Shield's light cover as it passed over, so it didn't inflict its full damage. At this moment, the firing from Cloud Piercer's Gatling gun had ended, but the hold shield was still there. At this moment, because of Crimson Storm and Sky-Piercing Strike, a few Team Samsara players were captured by the tentacles from Death's Door. They were quickly dragged towards the door. As for Team Blue Rain, Yu Feng and Song Xiao had already finished their attacks and were prepared to follow up with another wave of attacks. I managed to withstand it. Xu Yangshi was extremely astonished. He managed to fulfill the task of protecting Swaksar with his holy shield. Right, but at this moment, amidst the bloody light and black tentacles, Cloud Piercer swung his gun as he was pulled towards the door. He lifted his gun and aimed towards a reflection. Bang! Thunder Snipe, a level 70 sharpshooter skill. The bullets exited the muzzle. Xu Jingxi saw a black dot enlarge at a rapid pace before his eyes, then he clearly saw the single bullet pause on his holy shield. Immediately after that, it wasn't swallowed up because the holy shield had been broken. Pooh! A spurt of blood sprayed out from in between Soul Speaker's eyes. It's enough to only break through my holy shield. You still have to get through me, Xu Jingxi thought, when he heard a similar sound coming from behind him. Pooh! Chapter 653. The Limit of Limits. Pooh pooh. These two sounds rang out at practically the same time. Xu Jingxi didn't need to turn around to know what had happened. Cloud Piercer's snipe had elicited a penetrate effect. A bloody hole appeared in between the eyes of both Soul Speaker and Swaksar. This just in the game though. If a real person got hit like that, how could he not die? Of course, if this were real life, it wouldn't just be a hole. A powerful shot like Thunder Snipe would directly cause the head to explode. To think this would happen. Xu Jingxi was surprised. He saw death's door end. The black tentacles, which had grabbed Samsara's characters, quickly released their grip and retreated into the door. The rotating door soon disappeared back into the void. The characters released by the black tentacles were flung away according to their original trajectory. From this, it could be seen that the black tentacles had been swinging about wildly, but even under these circumstances, Zhou Zikai had used Thunder Snipe to hit his target accurately and produced the desired effects. This was an ace player. Samsara's ace player. The current number 1 player in all of Glory, Zhou Zikai. The 5 Samsara players touched onto the ground and immediately stood up. This wasn't anything difficult for pro players. Following afterwards, Team Samsara began their fierce counterattack. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer took the lead. He opened fire as he ran, sending grass fluttering away. The 4 members of Team Blue Rain were surrounded on all sides. Zhang Batao's empty waves pointed his sword and cast an electric wave formation. The bright ball of electricity caused the surrounding 15 units of grass to shiver. Even though electric wave formation wasn't as terrifying as Death's Door, the lightning generated by this skill was much faster than the tentacles. Unless you were outside of the 15-unit radius, it would be nearly impossible to escape. Under the suppression of Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer, how would it be so easy to walk out of range? Even normal attacks had a brief hit stun. Under Zhou Zekai's control, his suppression was displayed to the limit. Team Blue Rain's characters had difficulty moving. In the end, none of them were able to escape from the range of electric wave formation and were struck by the lightning coming from the ball of electricity. The most miserable of them was Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar. Zhou Zikai clearly placed more importance on Team Blue Rain's captain and gave him special treatment. The majority of his bullets were aimed at Swaksar. The other 3 players escaped from the electric wave formation after being struck by lightning once. However, Swaksar was hit 2-3 times. Team Blue Rain's players couldn't just stand still and watch their captain get struck by lightning. Yu Feng's and Song Xiao's characters rushed forward together, but they were blocked by Samsara's Wu Qi and Lu Boyuan. The tides had turned. After Team Blue Rain's surprise attack on Samsara, Samsara countered fiercely. Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar was struggling inside the electric wave formation. Even if he didn't die, he would still be severely injured. The spectators watched nervously. Their minds were completely focused on the characters fighting. At this moment, there was always something that had been neglected, such as the suddenly silent Huang Shaoshan. If he had really disappeared, Troubling Rain wouldn't be called the Sword Saint. Amidst the intense battle, a shadow suddenly appeared from behind Team Samsara. A blue light arced through the sky. Troubling Rain's silver weapon Ice Rain headed straight for Samsara's cleric, Laughing Song. Fang Minghua noticed the attack. Laughing Song leapt away from the blade, but Troubling Rain's attacks wouldn't just stop there. Sword light suddenly blossomed from the blade. Even though Huang Shaoshan's playstyle was like an assassin's, his character was still a blade master. Blade Masters didn't have the same dirty or insidious sneak attack skills like assassins did. Every sword move, whether it was fast or slow, light or heavy, all of them were upright and fair. Clerics had some ability to attack, but they definitely couldn't face Blade Masters in close combat. Once troubling rain closed in on him, his health began to drop rapidly. However, as a pro player, Laughing Song may be on the losing side. The player Feng Minghua didn't panic. If a Blade Master closed in on a cleric, the cleric would certainly suffer, let alone against Huang Shaoshan's Blade Master. Feng Minghua continued to calmly dodge and defend. His weapon wouldn't reduce much damage when guarding, but it was still better than nothing. Feng Minghua hung on. Team Samsasra obviously wouldn't just let their cleric get killed like that. A gunshot rang. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer turned his gun around. He shot at Troubling Rain as he ran towards him. Huang Shaoshan couldn't ignore the attacks of the Great Gunner either. He also didn't think he'd be able to kill off the enemy clerics so easily. Clerics had to be saved, so he expected the enemy would be coming. When he saw the other side come, Huang Shaoshan didn't run away and instead faced Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer directly. He used Immortal Guides the Way to send Laughing Song flying towards Cloud Piercer. Cloud Piercer immediately reacted by using a slide kick to slide under Laughing Song. His two guns never stopped firing as he closed the distance between himself and Troubling Rain. Cloud Piercer had two guns. The gun in his right hand was called Wildfire and the gun in his left hand was called Shattered Frost. For a sharpshooter, a dual gun user and a single gun user were played differently. Only using a single gun was easier and more steady. Using two guns was much more difficult because it wasn't as simple as just firing both guns at the same time. The guns needed to be switched. In order to fully utilize both guns, the difficulty was more than twice as difficult as using a single gun. Even pro players couldn't completely maintain such high level of play for the entire duration of the fight. Usually, they would use one gun as their main and support it with their other gun. If you could only use a single gun, then you had no qualifications to be a pro player. Zhou Zekai displayed the dual gun style to the limit. He was also doing it while using slide kick. Huang Shaoshan didn't dare to be negligent. Under his control, Troubling Rain swayed and shadows of him appeared all over the field. In an instant, the camera zoomed out. Everyone counted as the commentator cried out, 7. A total of 7 shadows. Huang Shaoshan's shadow steps produced 7 shadows. Correct, it's 7. Each and every shadow is perfect and complete too. Huang Shaoshan pushed his mechanics to the limit as well to face off against Zhou Zekai, but the astonishment towards his move was more than Zhou Zekai's dual gun style. Because previously, Huang Shaoshan could only produce 6.5 incomplete shadows. However, he had now displayed a complete 7. Tisk tisk, he's improved again, Yi Shu sighed as he looked at the screen. Of course. He's a first-rate talent that this senior personally discovered. Wei Chen didn't forget to self-praise. What are you so happy for? He'll be our opponent in the future, Yi Shu said. You should worry about the younger generation that you guided before saying anything, Wei Chen remarked. He was naturally pointing towards Team Excellent Era. Yi Shu had been the former captain, so Team Excellent Era's players could be considered the younger generation. The two old birds sighed. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun were amazed. The two of them had experienced these two skills many times before in the arena. Steamed Bun was a bit puzzled. How could there be so many? I thought 3 was the maximum? How could there be 7? Are 2 people using it? The Blade Masters that Steamed Bun had encountered in the arena clearly weren't experts. The experts amongst normal players could produce 4 shadows at most. Steamed Bun had come from the 10th server, after all, so his real battle experience was quite low. This is a real expert. Only an expert can do that. Tang Ru didn't know the complexities behind the move, but hearing the astonishment from the commentator voice, even she could tell that it must be incredibly difficult. I wonder how many I could do, Steamed Bun said. Brawlers have a similar skill, Tang Ru asked. I don't think so. I wonder if I can learn it. It looks so cool. Look how scared that commentator is, Steamed Bun said. Tang Ru. The fight continued. Huang Shaoshan's shadow steps were at the peak. 7 shadows, difficult to differentiate between which was real and which was fake. In a real battle, if the real couldn't be deduced instantly, there was no time for careful analysis. The purpose of shadow steps wasn't to play hide and seek, but to seize any opening to attack. If they couldn't be differentiated, then attack them all. After Cloudpiercer slid under, he shot bullets, kicked, performed elbow strikes, all sorts of attacks at the shadows. Sharpshooter skill, firearm martial arts. These were attacks that a sharpshooter could use in close combat. Body techniques for direct attacks combined with sudden shooting out of nowhere. It was quite difficult to defend against. Joe Zekai's usage of the ability didn't need to be said. He instantly attacked 5 of the shadows. The shadows from Shadow Steps weren't like the clones from Shadow Clone Technique. Clones had real bodies with attack and health. After they took damage or the skill went on cooldown, the clones would disappear, but shadows were virtual bodies without any stats. They couldn't take damage, but they also couldn't deal damage either. They would only disappear after the skill went on cooldown. Attacking was one way to distinguish shadows though. Joe Zekai's firearm martial arts allowed him to hit 5 targets at once, not giving his opponent any time to adjust. However, it seemed like all of the 5 had been shadows. Joe Zekai immediately turned around and saw that Troubling Rain's real body had actually given up on the 2 targets in front of him. Instead, he had teamed up with Yu Feng on the other side of the field to execute a pincer attack on Samsara's assassin, Wu Qi. Chapter 654. Trump Card vs. Trump Card. Anyone with a starting position in Team Blue Rain or Team Samsara was definitely skilled. Wu Qi fought evenly against the all-star level Yu Feng for a single moment. Both of them were pro players. Arguing over who was better or worse wouldn't give a definite answer. The results could only be determined once the fight concluded. In real battle, any small detail could be a deciding factor. It wasn't something that could be predicted on paper. Wu Qi may have been fighting evenly with Yu Feng, but once Huang Shaoshan's Troubling Rain joined the battle and the Blade Master and Berserker duo combined their attacks, Wu Qi could no longer endure. Huang Shaoshan and Yu Feng hadn't been teammates for just a day or two. Their coordination with one another wasn't as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Assassins had low defense and health. Facing the combined flurry of attacks, his assassin rapidly lost health. Fortunately, Samsara's cleric Fang Minghua was able to rescue him. His character Laughing Song lifted Silver Weapon, Angel's Protection, as Holy Light repeatedly flashed, helping Wu Qi survive for a bit longer. On the other side of the battle, Joe Zekai had figured out where the real body was, so he wasn't just going to sit around wasting any more time. Cloudpiercer changed directions to rescue Wu Qi. This was one advantage of the gunner classes. They had long-range attacks, so they could provide support faster. He just needed to lift his hands and the bullets would arrive. In comparison, if Huang Shaoshan's Blade Master had to go rescue someone, no matter how fast he ran, he would never be as fast as a bullet. No one would ignore an attack from the Great Gunner, but taking the attack under the protection of a Paladin's life activation was another matter. Life activation increased the health regen of a character. It was especially effective for characters with equipment that had health regen effects. With life activation, it was possible to completely negate the effects of low-damage attacks. This skill could be used on teammates, but because the majority of characters wouldn't stack health regen on themselves, paladins generally cast the skill on themselves before tanking damage for their teammates. At this moment, Shujinka's Soul Speaker activated the skill. A vigorous aura of vitality emitted from his body as he took Cloudpiercer's bullets head-on. Blood splattered everywhere. When the bullets hit his body, the effects were still there, but because of the quickened health regeneration, the injuries on Soul Language's body healed at a visible pace. He didn't move at all and just ate the bullets like a meat shield. In that instant, he looked like a knight holding a shield, facing the boss alone. It looked somewhat stupid, but it was effective. Joe Zekai's Cloudpiercer shot bullets at all sorts of angles, but Soul Language's body was there to block them. His attacks were able to deal damage to Soul Speaker, even under life activation, but Soul Speaker's health didn't fall as rapidly as Wu Qi's Cruel Silence. Wu Qi was facing the attacks from 2 all-star level players. Even though he was still hanging on with the help of his cleric, it rapidly consumed the mana and skill cooldowns of the cleric. Once enough skills were on cooldown, the 2 enemies might be able to inflict serious enough damage to directly finish him off in one go. This was a method that pro teams often used. A team like Team Blue Rain could obviously execute it to perfection. With the way the current battle was going, it was obvious what Team Blue Rain was planning to do. No one stopped Feng Minghua from healing. After Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar escaped from the electric wave formation, he stopped Samsara's Zhang Batao from assisting his teammates. Ignore a warlock's attacks? That most definitely couldn't be done. It wasn't because of the damage, but because of the CC effects from warlock skills. Binding curse, control curse, hexagram prison. You wouldn't die from these attacks, but being dead might be better than being alive under these spells. Yu Wenzhou's hand speed wasn't fast, but his grasp of timing had reached near perfection. Wasting skills or cycling through skill cooldowns properly would never happen as long as he was in control. Yu Wenzhou rarely appeared in the individual competitions, but it didn't mean his slow hand speed made him useless in 1v1s. With his slow and steady pace, he was able to completely control Samsara's Zhang Batao. F***CK. Yi Shu heard someone beside him curse. He turned his head to see Wei Chen watching the confrontation between Swaksar and Empty Waves. His expression was ugly. He was clearly thinking of some unpleasant memories. You have to overcome that psychological trauma. Yi Shu turned his head to look at Swaksar on the screen. F***CK, Wei Chen cursed. He clearly wasn't happy with the usage of the word psychological trauma. He didn't have any such thing. He had just thought about something very unpleasant. What psychological trauma? Tang Ru and Steamed Bun turned their heads and asked curiously. F***CK off. It isn't something that little kids like you should be worried about. Wei Chen shooed the two away. Yeah, a little kid in his teens beat him so badly, he lost all confidence and was so downhearted, he retired. Did you really think old Wei would blab about it casually to anyone? Yi Shu said. TCH, I was just helping a younger generation player mature and gave him confidence, so I lost on purpose. Wei Chen jumped up and said without missing a beat. It wasn't without reason. That time, when he lost to Yu Wenzhou, it had just been a practice bout with the team. As a senior, he could say that he intentionally went easy, because Wei Chen wouldn't go all out against a kid in the training camp, even for someone as shameless as him. In the end, he lost all 3 rounds. In the pro scene, losing 3 rounds didn't prove anything, but from their positions in the team at that time, even if Wei Chen didn't go all out, it wouldn't change anything. Gold would always shine. Whether Yu Wenzhou won or lost those 3 rounds, the shell came off of Yu Wenzhou and Wei Chen would always be stuck with the feeling that he wasn't as good as him. Losing only made the feeling worse. A younger generation player from your team? I don't know where you thought of that. I'm talking about that year in the playoffs where I completely crushed you, Yi Shu said. When Wei Chen had still been in the alliance, Yi Shu hadn't even been 20 years old yet, so he could be considered a little kid in his teens at that time too. So that's what you were talking about. Wei Chen slapped his leg. Wasn't that because when this senior saw your repulsively ugly face and crafty looking eyes, with my eyes honed in the streets, I could easily see that aura of evil around you. If I didn't let you win the championships, someone like you might take on a vengeful personality and inflict a great terror on society. As a citizen of this country, I could only throw the game and allow you to win the championships. And I had to do it 3 times to prevent such a great tragedy from happening. Now that you've grown up, this senior doesn't need you to repay me anymore. Give this old fellow a break. Are you pulling that out of your ass? I specifically looked for you to join our team so that you could win finally a championship for once. This is my apology for beating you so badly that year, but we have to get one thing straight. I only beat you up once, so I can only let you win once. The rest you have to gain with your own efforts. Look at those youngsters on the screen. Their tenaciousness and passion to win is something that you should learn from. Haha, Tang Ru laughed. She shifted her attention back to the match and stopped listening to their argument. The beginning of the argument seemed to have been half-truth half-lie, but near the end, the two of them began talking nonsense. Though when Steamed Bun listened, he looked hard at Yi Shu and mumbled to himself, I have eyes honed in the streets too. Why don't I see an aura of evil? Ha 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 ha, Steamed Bun, see. Ah, Wei Chen heard his mumble and laughed. He was just about to say something, but his eyes had been watching the match the entire time. Team Blue Rain had control of the match, when their control was suddenly broken. Once again, the person to change the tides of the match was the Great Gunner. Zhou Zikai fiercely turned Cloudpiercer's gun and started attacking Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar. This action had been planned beforehand. Xu Jingxi's duty was to block his bullets. Now that he shifted his attention to a different target, Xu Jingxi's soul language couldn't get there in time. The sharpshooter's attacks covered a large range. As for Yu Wenzhou, a battle of hand speed was his nemesis. His tempo was disrupted. Zhang Batao's empty waves was able to use this opportunity to escape from Yu Wenzhou. He immediately cast an ice wave formation towards Troubling Rain, Brilliant Edge, and Cruel Silence, where the main battle was taking place. The wave formation headed towards both targets and the probability of getting frozen was very high. Huang Shaoxian and Yu Feng had to be wary. They could only temporarily stop attacking Cruel Silence and hastily escape the formation's area of effect. Under the wave formation's protection, Wu Qi quickly controlled Cruel Silence to escape, but this battle wouldn't give him any time to rest. Cruel Silence immediately headed towards Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar to return the favor and bully the enemy captain. The situation instantly reversed. Starting from Huang Shaoxian's ambush, Team Blue Rain had dominated the match until Zhou Zikai reversed the situation with a powerful snipe. Huang Shaoxian then ambushed again regained control of the situation. Instead of facing the enemy ace player directly, he threw the enemy cleric aside and, along with Yu Feng, focused his attacks on a non-core member like Wu Qi. Unfortunately, their control over the battle was once again disrupted by the enemy ace player Zhou Zikai. A series of ups and downs occurred in a short period of time. The styles of the two teams could completely be seen. Team Blue Rain had clever tactics and coordination. Team Samsara's Zhou Zikai overturned the battle with his own power. These were their trump cards. From start to finish, they were evenly matched. However, tactics couldn't be executed perfectly every time, and no individual never made mistakes. Which team would be the first to expose an opening? Chapter 655. Trade. No one had expected that the ones to tip the scales of this even battle between Team Blue Rain and Team Samsara would be the two nearly non-existent players. Team Samsara's Lu Boyuan and Team Blue Rain's Song Xiao. Ever since the beginning of the match, the confrontation between the grappler and Chi Master had practically been ignored. The cameraman rarely gave them any screen time. Compared to the fast-paced team battle, where opposing teams kept on changing targets, these two seemed to almost be in their own little world. The two players had engaged in a 1v1. However, when this 1v1 concluded, one side ended with an overwhelming advantage. The vast majority of attention given to Samsara was focused on Zhou Zikai, followed by the vice-captain, Zhang Batao. The other supporting players weren't bad, but compared to the brilliance displayed by the Great Gunner, their plays would all appear somewhat dull. At this point, many people had realized that Team Samsara's characters all had increased skill points. However, most of the discussion was still focused on the two all-star characters, Cloud Piercer and Empty Waves. Only Team Samsara themselves would know the exact details. With their 20 million RMB purchase of the Skill Book Guild, the character with the greatest improvement was actually Lu Boyuan's grappler, Chaotic Cloudy Mountains. Chaotic Cloudy Mountains originally possessed 4,770 skill points, an average number in the pro scene, but while clearing the quests for skill points, their luck was extremely good on this account and they had actually managed to reach the maximum 5,000 points. An increase in 230 skill points had been the greatest through all of Team Samsara. Zhou Zikai's Cloud Piercer and Zhang Batao's Empty Waves also managed to reach 5,000 skill points, but their all-star characters had a higher starting point to begin with. Both of their characters originally possessed over 4,800 points and only needed a bit more than 100 points to reach the max. As a result, amongst Team Samsara, Chaotic Cloudy Mountains had improved the most. If the opponents used data from previous matches, they would certainly realize that Chaotic Cloudy Mountains' contribution exceeded their expectations. And at this moment, the unexpected happened on Chaotic Cloudy Mountains' side. With the help of the 230 extra points obtained through the skill book guide, Lu Boyuan was able to suppress Song Xiao. Once Chaotic Cloudy Mountains grabbed receding tides, he continuously used throwing skills to pressure receding tides. Song Xiao began to panic. He originally had confidence in breaking out of these chain throws, but during the fight, he felt that something wasn't right. The gaps, which he could usually take advantage of to break free, were always chained together even faster than he had anticipated. This wasn't just an issue of the user's hand speed, but rather a step up in the character's skills. Even worse, Team Samsara seemed to have expected such results. After chaotic cloudy mountains successfully grabbed receding tides and began to continuously throw him, the other three Team Samsara attackers focused their attacks on receding tides. Song Xiao wasn't the only one to be surprised and panicked. For Team Blue Rain, this was certainly an unexpected result. Since they hadn't expected Song Xiao to be completely helpless against Lu Boiwan's chain throws, they hadn't thought that his receding tides would be toyed around in the hands of chaotic mountains. A character being completely controlled by a grappler would find it difficult to react to any other enemy attacks. With the sudden attacks were focused on him, along with chaotic cloudy mountains' complete control, receding tide's health rapidly fell. Xu Jingxi was suddenly a mess again. Song Xiao's suppression affected the rest of the battle. Team Blue Rain was suddenly caught unprepared. Everything had happened too quickly. Song Xiao's receding tides was able to be saved, but it had cost Xu Jingxi's soul speaker a huge amount of skills and mana. With a lot of his skills on cooldown, he wouldn't be able to keep up the healing for Team Blue Rain in their fight against Team Samsara. The entire team's health had been lowered by a peg. The series of events triggered by Song Xiao's suppression had led to Team Blue Rain suffering a heavy loss. What an idiot. To think he can't even escape out of something like that, Wei Chen anxiously shouted, during Song Xiao's suppression. It seems like chaotic cloudy mountains skill points have improved by quite a lot. Yi Shu truly deserved to be called an expert at all classes. He was able to quickly discover chaotic cloudy mountains' significant increase in strength. F***ck, Wei Chen angrily cursed. It seems like with your attitude, you want Team Blue Rain to win, Yi Shu said. Nonsense, Wei Chen glared at Yi Shu. If Team Samsara loses, the 20 million that they spent would be a waste of their money. How exciting would that be? Ha 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 ha. You beast, Yi Shu sighed. Unfortunately, reality didn't meet Wei Chen's expectations. The first lead grasped by Team Samsara had been obtained because of their 20 million RMB investment. Chaotic cloudy mountains is a bit strange. Song Xiao had managed to survive, so he quickly warned the rest of his teammates. Be careful. Team Blue Rain couldn't do much about it. They had no way of slowly analyzing how their opponents allocated his skill points in the middle of such an intense match. They could only rely on their experience and intuition to deal with the problem. In an even match like this, if someone made a mistake in judgment, he would end up like how Song Xiao had previously. After gaining their first lead, Team Samsara continued to pressure their opponents. They continued with their relentless attacks, not giving Team Blue Rain any time to recover from their earlier loss. This type of forced fighting was exactly what Team Samsara wanted. Even though Team Blue Rain didn't lose in a frontal confrontation, such a fast-paced battle didn't give them any opportunity to close the gap made by Team Samsara. If this situation continued, the first one to fall would definitely be someone from Team Blue Rain. Team Samsara gradually displayed their reason for choosing this map. By using the protective screen of the grass, they were able to force Team Blue Rain on the defensive. Captain, behind you. A Team Blue Rain player suddenly warned during the deadlock. The spectators were able to notice it faster from their viewpoint. Team Samsara's assassin, Cruel Silence, had circled around to flank Swaksar. The warning had come too late. Against a sudden ambush, Yu Wenzhou's reaction speed and intuition wouldn't lose to anyone, but his execution was always a bit slower than anyone else's. Yu Wenzhou was extremely important to the team, but his weakness was also extremely obvious. He was a contradictory existence in the team. The team's greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses were both him. This wasn't any secret. As a result, Yu Wenzhou's Swaksar was often ambushed by others, so he was very used to it. Facing this kind of situation, he didn't panic. He would always calmly resolve it. Cruel Silence leapt out of his cover from the grass. The cold light glinting from his dagger slashed downwards towards Swaksar. Suddenly, a hexagram prison appeared out of the void. However, it wasn't aimed at Cruel Silence, but rather Swaksar himself. Wu Qi was depressed. If he continued, he would definitely hit Swaksar, but his Cruel Silence would definitely crash into that dark purple prison. In that case, he would immediately be trapped inside the hexagram prison. A single attack in exchange for getting imprisoned wasn't worth it. Cruel Silence didn't continue forward and retreated instead. Suddenly, as he dodged to the side, dang! The sound of two blades colliding could be heard. Huang Shaoshan's troubling rain had suddenly appeared. However, Wu Qi had been aware and used his dagger to block the attack. The two melee classes engaged in battle. Swaksar's hexagram prison immediately began to move. It wasn't fast, but it cut off Cruel Silence's path of retreat. Huang Shaoshan knew what to do intuitively. Troubling Rain drew his sword and used Formless Phantom Blade. Assassins didn't have the ability to directly face a skill like this. Wu Qi hastily had Cruel Silence retreat, but only then did he discover that he had nowhere to run. In front of him was a Formless Phantom Blade and behind him was a hexagram prison. One of the lights from the hexagram prison touched Cruel Silence. The prison instantly formed around him. Before the duration of the effect had ended, he would have no way of escaping. Troubling Rain's attack was already storming towards him. Blood flew everywhere from Cruel Silence's body. It hadn't been easy to catch an opponent. Just one attack would be a waste. Team Blue Rain's characters began to focus their fire on him. Team Samsara could hastily try to rescue him and Cruel Silence might not die, but this situation was similar to Song Xiao's previous situation. Team Blue Rain would use this opportunity to make up for the gap that had previously been created. But who would have thought that Team Samsara didn't have any intentions on saving him? Wu Qi and his Cruel Silence had unexpectedly been completely abandoned. Samsara's players immediately focused their attacks on Swaksar instead. Team Blue Rain suddenly realized this might happen and wanted to make adjustments, but Team Samsara didn't give them a chance. The first one to arrive was Chaotic Cloudy Mountains. Ignoring everything else, he grabbed Swaksar and tossed him into the air. Then, bullets flew towards Swaksar. Zhou Zikai was planning on using a delivery gun to send Swaksar away. Delivery gun wasn't something that couldn't be broken free from, but it required Yuan Zhou to best Zhou Zikai in hand speed. It was something very unlikely to happen. None of Team Blue Rain's players had any hope for their captain. They hastily searched for Cloudpiercer's position and headed over to stop him. But how could Team Samsara just let them do what they wanted? They hurried over to protect him. Swaksar continued to tumble in the air. Cruel Silence being trapped by the hexagram prison had been Team Samsara's trade. However, the trade for Wu Qi's Cruel Silence in exchange for Yuan Zhou's Swaksar was too worth it. After another series of back and forths, Cruel Silence made a heroic sacrifice and Swaksar was finally killed by Cloudpiercer.